So would you mind just introducing yourself briefly and telling us a bit about who you are and your role?
Sure. Hi, everybody. My name is Joanna Kubota. I'm the Executive Director for the Western Parkland Councils. As George Britchevic outlined earlier, there is an alliance of the 8 councils that make up the Western Parkland City. They are Blue Mountains, Camden, Campbelltown, Fairfield, Hawkesbury, Liverpool, Penrith and Wallandilly. And my job is to basically help drive the council agenda in implementation of the city deal. So I work very closely with both the Commonwealth Government and the state government, both through the authority. I actually sit in the delivery office of the authority as part of that role. But I also, my job is to proactively identify and then, push projects and activities that will contribute to achieving our vision for the Western Parkland City, which, as the Mayor outlined, is for a green, eminently livable 30-minute city. So I get involved in lots of different things, NETM, of which the NETM is one.
Excellent. Thanks very much, Joe. And now I might ask Leon Drury to introduce himself. Leon, over to you, if I can bring you in.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Leon Drury. I'm the Executive Officer of Manufacturing Skills Australia. We've had a long history with the development of qualifications and skills, trades and apprenticeships, so on, for the manufacturing sector. And my involvement in the NETM has been driven by my role as a conduit between industry and government, providing advice and intelligence to both those sides of industry and government. And we are basically a not-for-profit that is owned by industry, and we seek to bolster the access to skills and enable industry to source talent and get at the cutting edge of technology through the acquisition of skills.
Great, thanks very much, Leon. And finally, Daniella Mesa from BAE Systems. Can I bring you in now and ask you just to briefly introduce yourself?
Good morning. Thanks so much for the opportunity to be here. I'm Daniella Mesa. I'm the Chief People Officer for BAE Systems Australia. For those not familiar with BAE, global defence contractor. My role within the organisation, I look after all things people, so safety. The entire education agenda is quite a significant one for my role, as you would appreciate. And in terms of my interaction with NETM as part of the industry reference group, so that I can actually bring a voice of industry. From a defence perspective, we are growing significantly, and the education and skilling agenda it's huge, and it dominates a fair bit of my time most days. So thanks again for allowing me to join today.
Thanks very much, everyone. And I'm now going to just push the results of that initial question through to you, so you should be able to see those on screen in a moment. So it looks like we've got around over 30% of people from Western Sydney and 93% of people from Sydney more broadly. We've got a good regional representation as well as interstate, and we've actually got almost 20% of the people from outside of Australia, which is impressive. So now, before I ask the first question, I'm going to set a poll question. Here we're looking to get a sense of what sector you're from. Are you from business or industry? Are you representing an industry association, education and training? Are you with Australian government, state government or local government? Or are you with a government from overseas? So whilst the audience are looking at that question, Danielle, I might go to the first question to yourself, if that's okay. So attracting and training a skilled workforce is obviously a challenge before COVID. I'm just wondering how BAE Systems has found skills gaps have been exacerbated by the pandemic and, of course, the extended lockdown. And how important do you think training and skills development is to BAE Systems in terms of both attracting and retaining staff through the recovery phase?
Thanks, Peter. Lots in that question. So, look, as I indicated, we're rapidly growing across the country and sort of globally as a business as well. We're fortunate in defence that we're seen as a bastion for employment security in tough times. So we haven't been as impacted as other industries and sectors by COVID, and our relative attractiveness has increased. Compared to some of those outside of defence as an example. The projects we support have very, very long timelines and provide exposure to a wide range of professional opportunities, lots of them spanning generations. And so our attractiveness around a growth sector has helped us weather some of the challenges with COVID. It has also presented some opportunities for us to provide roles for displaced workers from other sectors. So we've brought Jetstar aircraft technicians into our business in Newcastle, Holden workers into our Hunter-class frigate program, based both in Adelaide and in Melbourne, and Vintech employees into our Red Ochre Labs, which is our research and technology business. We found during COVID, some people are less likely to move, particularly if their roles haven't been as affected. So our attrition rate has remained relatively low. We sit well below 10%, with a couple of minor increases in some of our critical roles, given the market for defence remains really buoyant. Looking forward, we're expecting more movement in the labour market into next year. So training and development will play a critical role for us from two perspectives. Growing the workforce in such a highly competitive technologist areas and roles, and some of the engineering disciplines like software particularly are difficult to fill at the best of times, but becoming increasingly so. So in addition to NETM, we're also exploring alternatives, traditional university and vet streams, including partnerships with STEM returners to bring qualified engineers back into our workforce after a career break, as an example. Employee retention is the second one, and we're exploring upskilling and reskilling opportunities to support career mobility across the business and help cultivate new skill sets into new roles and work in new ways of working that have changed. So we're a very diverse business globally and here in Australia, with lots of different job families, most of them with very, very deep capability requirements. And as an example, we've recently put over 51 shipbuilding production workers through a digital diploma in technologies in South Australia last year. Their original skill sets were around traditional end of shipbuild activities, and we've now redeployed all of those people into completely different roles in the new digital shipyard. So that sort of gives a bit of a perspective of some of the opportunities that COVID has created for us, but also, where it's had an impact on some other sectors, how we've been able to leverage some of that capability, and, things like micro-credentials and the reskilling piece has enabled us to do that.
Great, thanks, Danielle. And look, I'm now going to just push the results of that poll, which you should be able to see on your screen now. So it's great that we've got well over 50% of the audience today are from business and industry, which is exactly the audience we're targeting. Around 4% from industry associations, and a good representative group from the education and training sector. And actually, there was a question earlier that came through on the poll asking whether RTOs can get involved in the request for tender. Absolutely. The RFT is open to any registered training organisation that is registered with ASQA or TEXA, the regulators in Australia. So I'll provide information about how to get involved in that RFT a little bit later on. So I'm going to now move to the next poll question before I go to the next question to the panel. And that should be up on your screen now. If you are an industry representative, what sector best describes your organisation? Manufacturing, freight and logistics, defence and aerospace, agribusiness, pharmaceuticals, medical technology, or other? And while we're waiting for that question to be answered, Joe, can I come into you now? What role can you see NETM playing in delivering long-term outcomes for SME businesses in the Western Parkland city from a local council or economic development perspective?
Yeah, thanks, Peter. It's, obviously, as I outlined before, our vision for the Western Parkland city is for a 30-minute city. What do we mean by that? Well, we mean that we want people to be able to find jobs within 30 minutes of their home, to be able to, go to dinner, to, go see a movie, etc., within 30 minutes of their home. But obviously, jobs are an important part of that. Currently, as it stands, a large percentage of our populations do leave the Western Parkland city for work, that there aren't the jobs locally for them, or they're not the right sort of jobs. But at the same time, we know from talking to a lot of our businesses that they don't have the people with the right skills often. So we have a bit of a gap in the middle. Obviously, traditional forms of learning where you go to uni or even TAFE takes time, and it's not necessarily something that people who are already working full time can do. And also sometimes they can be a little bit too esoteric. They're not as based in actual practical skills as they need to be. So we're hopeful that the NETM, with its micro-credentials, sort of looking at about 40 hours in total, will fill the gap and help us to sort of find jobs for the people locally so that they can work locally. Obviously, with the Aerotropolis coming in, there's a lot of really exciting and new opportunities there, and companies like BAE Systems, etc., coming in. But reality is that we already have a lot of really interesting companies in our areas. We've got, Marley Spoon, Woolworths, and Amazon distribution centres. In fact, 90% of the Subway sandwich franchise chain's bread is actually made in the Western Parkland city for all of Australia. So there's some really good companies out there, and there's some great opportunities. So we're really looking for the NETM to help us to reskill and upskill our people. Of particular interest is the fact that we have very large migrant populations and people of culturally and linguistically diverse backgrounds. And we've been already discussing with the NETM team the idea of perhaps producing some bridging credentials or helping them, because often these people are highly qualified and have good qualifications from their home country, but they're not qualified within the Australian context. So again, we believe that the NETM might help us to fill that gap. Obviously, what we're hoping is that, by creating greater access to skilled labour, we will increase the attractiveness of the Western Parkland city as an investment opportunity for big companies and for small and medium-sized companies. But also, obviously, by increasing the number of available jobs, and particularly skilled and interesting jobs, we make it more attractive for people to come and live and work in the Western Parkland city as well. So it's a win-win from our perspective.
Thank you very much, Jo. So I'm going to just push the results of that, which you should be able to see on the screen now. So it looks like we've got about 12% of the businesses from the manufacturing sector, which is great, because again, it looks like advanced manufacturing will be one of the first key focus areas of the NETM. Around 4% in freight and logistics, also the same amount in defence and aerospace, 2.6% in agribusiness. Haven't got any representation of the pharmaceutical sector online, but I think it's around 1.3% from medical technology, which is great. Leon, we might bring you in now. Can I ask you what specific skills do you see from businesses in your sector, and what kinds of micro-credentials do you see addressing these in the manufacturing sector in Western Sydney?
Thanks, Peter. Look, it's pretty varietal, the sort of demand that I hear, because businesses in manufacturing and advanced manufacturing are so diverse, as we've seen, from everything from engineering, aerospace, a lot of the companies that are linked to defence, textiles, food, and so on. It's very, very broad. But business models, the ability to pivot, we've just seen through COVID companies having to pivot, particularly those that have been very much direct, into customers approaching them, having to pivot digitally, having to connect their supply chains digitally, and look at how they can become more efficient and effective at accessing materials and technology. Upskilling their staff in the ability to modernise their processes and practices to effectively take advantage of things like Industry 4.0. Automation and artificial intelligence are playing a large role in modernising business. Trying to upskill businesses in skills that are effectively changing on a daily basis, particularly around technology and ITC, are areas that I see that there is a high demand for. Having said that, trying to get people who are capable of continuing a lifelong learning pathway is a key one that businesses talk to me about. Making sure that they stay fit for the fight, if you like, effectively participating in ongoing learning while they're within a business, so that business can reinvent itself. A lot of businesses have found themselves hitting a use-by date, if you like, because they haven't been modernising or upskilling their own workforce, and that has caused some real issues, particularly for SMEs, which are family-based, trying to find fresh blood and people who are interested. And industry really needs to be able to market themselves to the world to effectively attract and retain people.
Great, thanks, Leon. We've got a question from the audience here. Are all micro-credentials developed by the NETM going to be 40 hours in learning length, or will they vary? I think the short answer is that certainly I think they'll vary. It'll depend on the context of the type of training that's required. And look, being a pilot, we're not really sure what sort of proposals we're going to see. So I think we'll be pretty open to a range of different models coming forward. So I'm going to move into another polling question now. The question here is, what micro-credentials would you see being offered for your business or industry? And this is an open-ended question, so I'll be interested to see some of the results coming through now. Now, while we're waiting for that, Danielle, I'm going to come back to you if that's all right. What role do you see NETM's industry-led micro-credentials-based approach to skills training playing in addressing the skills gaps for BAE systems?
For us, NETM's helping play that role to develop the enterprise approach to micro-credentials. So it's really helping us guide our thinking as well. And so it's really great for us to be involved in this from the start. Having NETM doing the heavy lifting with the education and training providers allows industry like us to focus on what really matters, which is about fit for purpose training that's readily available and scalable, and we can be flexible in both the time and the pace to be able to do that. It also allows us to work with other companies and leverage micro-credentials that are being developed in other sectors. And in addition to that, it gives us the assurance around the quality of the training that's also going to be delivered. So there's a couple of things in it for us that are really, really valuable. In the first instance, micro-credentials for us are about upskilling within our organisation, particularly supporting our digital transformation and potentially replacing some of our internal training if there is definitely industry demand and some economies of scale that we can leverage and share in. And over time, as micro-credentials become far more mainstream and gain a lot of recognition, it will become a very important recruitment pipeline for us. However, as a defence business, we are cautious in our approach. We have to be and will continue to be. Our current skills models and contracts with our customers, so the Commonwealth of Australia and then internationally, are built mostly around the current traditional degree and vet qualified roles. And so we will need to be very actively engaging alongside NETM with government and with our customer to also influence their thinking, and so that we can demonstrate our assurance that the capability and skill that we have in our business is fit for purpose.
Great. Thanks very much, Danielle. And we've had some amazing responses here in the poll. I can't display them on screen because of the way the system works, but they include continuous improvement, leadership and management, software development and AI, innovation-related topics, entrepreneurship for trades and engineering professionals, advanced business models for advanced technology, what is Industry 4.0 and what does it mean for my business model, cybersecurity, precast manufacturing for infrastructure contractors, advanced technologies in areas such as materials handling, that includes fabrication, electrical, control systems, software, ICT solutions, engineering, advanced manufacturing, Industry 4.0 foundations training, science of systems integrated management, STEM in the digital age, digitisation, renewables solution, further future of energy, digitising services and processes, suite of soft skills, employment, employability competencies for advanced tech industries. So lots of really interesting and varied responses there. Joe, I'll come back to you again. How do you see councils and businesses collaborating with the Western Parkland City Authority on the development of the NETM over the life of the pilot?
Thanks, Peter. Well, obviously, we've been involved in the sort of the steering committee or the project control group so far to sort of help guide how it's developed up until this point, and we'll continue to do so. I think, obviously, we're very keen to promote this out to existing businesses. We have already let the economic development staff know, and certainly that will be part of my role, is to make sure that the information is out to the businesses in the region, and that they have a chance to sort of talk to the NETM team about their needs. Also, we do have, some councils do have local employment coordinators, so making sure that they play a role, and that we connect in with the employment sort of coordinators in the region to sort of identify skills gaps and help inform what micro-credentials might make the most sense or be of the most use, certainly particularly in the lead up, as we're still building the Aerotropolis and the airport, and they will not be online, or live. Bits and pieces of them will come online as we go along, but we're talking 2025, 26. So there's going to be lots of other things that can be done in the meantime. We can also provide connections through to both the RTOs and to TAFE that already exist within the Western Parkland City, and make sure that we are giving access and the option to be part of the program to those organisations. And lastly, obviously, this is a pilot. So we are, as we go along, we're constantly looking at it, and I think we can play an important role in providing that ongoing feedback as to how we're going, how fit for purpose it is, how it could be improved, so that we really end up with a really great model by the end of the pilot.
Great. Thanks very much for that, Jo. I'm going to go to our next poll question now. So what kind of training is a priority for your staff? And we've got induction training, technical skills development, soft skills, products and services, quality training, safety training, or other. I'd be curious to hear your results on that. While we're waiting for that, Leon, I might come back to you if that's okay.
Sure.
Tell us about the sector that you represent. Do you think most businesses in your sector would support employees to participate in the NETM micro-credentials that are relevant to advanced manufacturing, and why? What sort of benefits do you see for them?
I think, first of all, our biggest challenge is to inform industry and make sure that they're aware, and it's good that we've got such a significant number of manufacturers on the line today. So that's a good start, and if they can tell also their colleagues in their supply chains about it as well, that will assist us in raising the profile of the NETM. Most of the people that I speak to in industry are constantly talking about challenges to access and making sure that they don't have disruption to their business. So they want to make sure that they can get things in bite-sized chunks as often as they can. It's not going to be a substitute for traditional trades and those sorts of skills that we get out of universities currently. It's an additional capability builder, an ability to quickly stack or select from a menu and choose things that are bespoke and interesting and useful for the growth of the business. So I think that's where the biggest opportunity lies, and many manufacturers are going to be very keen to take that opportunity up. And as they see the success of the pilot, then that will then grow. And I know from my discussions I've had, not just in Western Sydney, and I live in Western Sydney in the heartland of the Bradfield area. I talk to people all over the country, and they're all saying exactly as Jennifer Westacott said, how can we get this in our area? We want to have something like that. So I think we're on the verge of something quite big and innovative. And I just want to sort of reiterate that this is not going to be a this or that. It's going to be an add-on to those traditional sources of talent.
Great. Thanks very much, Leon. And I'm just going to push the results to the audience here. So we're looking at around 20% of respondents have said induction training, over 70% have said technical skills development. So that's interesting and seems to tie in with a lot of saying earlier. But interestingly, 66%, so almost as high, soft skills development is considered really crucial. Almost 30% products and services training, quality training, and safety training are both well over 20%, 25%. So that is interesting. In a moment, we're rapidly heading towards time. In a moment, I might ask you all just to sort of sum up with a final comment, but I've got a couple of questions that have come in from the audience. There's quite a few questions are asking about whether the micro-credentials will be accredited, and if not, how will we ensure quality? So obviously, quality can be absolutely crucial, and I think the most important thing for industry that we've heard is not so much whether it's formal training that relates to the Australian qualifications framework, but more so that they can be sure that the training that's been provided has given the learners the skill sets that they've been offered in terms of the training. So that'll be a really crucial role for the education providers to be playing in partnership with their industry partners. So absolutely that will be an essential part. There's also been a question around how the stacking of micro-credentials will work, and will the NETM create pathways for further training and education? Yes, this is something that's really important. We are looking, as part of our remit, we've been asked to investigate the use of a skills passport. There's a lot of work happening in skills passports, both at the state and federal level, and we're working really closely with our colleagues across other agencies in New South Wales Government and also with the federal government to look at how we can implement a model that will enable learners to stack micro-credentials and to support learning pathways towards future qualifications. This is a really dynamic area, and it's something that's really changing rapidly. So it's something that I think we'll be doing a lot of thought leadership on. It'll be interesting. I think a lot of people will be interested to see how we go forward with this. So absolutely, that's an important thing. I'm going to go to my final polling question today, and so does your organisation see itself proposing new micro-credentials for the NETM pilots? In other words, if you're an industry partner, or designing new micro-credentials for the NETM pilot, if you are an education provider, delivering micro-credentials, again, if you're both industry and or education provider. So I'd be curious to see the results in that. While we're waiting for that to come through, Danielle, any final thoughts from you in terms of how you're feeling about moving forward with the NETM?
Look, for me, just reiterating what I've said before, really, really important partnership and contribution from our perspective. And if I just think about, in summing up, that we've heard already, the growth and demand for talent. I've been talking about that for most of my career, but it's definitely a real challenge. The rapid change in skills that are required creates a real need for industry to make sure it's leaning into this conversation, not just waiting for it to come to us and be served to us, whether that's leaning in directly and or through industry associations. But I think that's a very important one. And also off the back of that, the sustainability angle of this, that we could all take a very traditional approach and get out there and try to, keep raising, remuneration or try to cannibalize the same, really small talent market. We've got to start to work better together and really, really collaborate across the entire supply chain, as well as for the broader labour market. And so I also challenge industry to approach this in a way that this is a much, greater agenda. But yes, we all will individually come at it that we have very specific needs and requirements that we're under a lot of pressure to respond to quickly. So that's just the other piece that I think is really important, that through the NETM, that's going to provide that ecosystem for us all to interact and collaborate and benefit from.
Great, thanks, Danielle. And Joe, from your perspective, from a council perspective, do you see this as being something that is going to work smoothly, something you think councils will embrace in terms of trying to support?
Oh, definitely. Look, I think it's another tool that we can use to help, both our local businesses to hire appropriately trained staff. It also allows us to help our people to access jobs locally. So, we are an area that, as everybody knows, has been, frankly, smashed by COVID in recent months. So, I think that anything that we can do to help get the economy thriving, make it vibrant, and get the economy moving really well is definitely something that we want to be, focused on and working to assist. So, yeah, we're definitely team to be involved and to play a very proactive role in helping roll out the NETM throughout the Western Parkland City. Thanks
very much, Joanna. And Leon, just before I go to you, I'll just push the results from that poll question. So interestingly, quite balanced. We've got just about the same amount, 26% for both proposing new micro-credentials and designing new micro-credentials, and almost the same, just a little bit lower in terms of delivering. But importantly, almost half saying all of the above. So that's a fantastic result, and that's really interesting for us. So Leon, before I move to the final call to action, I might just throw to you for the final word from the panel.
Oh, thanks, Peter. Yeah, I think never before have we seen that sovereign capability has been so important, and this is part of building that capability. So I think it's going to be a key initiative that's going to drive business, not only just in Western Sydney, but across the country. So I think I'd encourage every business that's online and those that are in the broader community to participate. Quality is going to be driven by those partnerships between the people who are participating from the educational organisations and those industry leaders that are putting the standards or the expectations to those providers. So, you know, I can't speak highly enough of the initiative, and I look very much forward to what happens through the next 4 years in the pilot and the outcome of the benefits to industry.
Right, thank you so much. Look, can I thank you, Danielle, Joe, and Leon, firstly for your patience with the technology and for staying with us. Really appreciate your insights today. In a moment, I'm going to now look at the call to action. So I might move to that slide, but thank you so much again for your time today, all three of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.